Hello, everyone. I'm Marina Ferraz, a sustainability management student at Columbia University. And building on the solutions we discussed, we now turn to another crucial question. How do we finance all of this? To help us begin addressing this question, we welcome Benjamin Zehr to present the report, The Climate Investing Frontier in the Latin America and the Caribbean, offering a roadmap for the region's climate and nature tech ecosystem.
Hello. Good afternoon. Thank you to the event organizers. Really terrific. This is my first Brazil Climate Summit, and needless to say, I'm impressed. I'm really honored to be here to talk to you all today. And thank you all for being here, for giving your attention to this crucial set of issues. If you're sitting in this room, I don't need to explain to you that Latin America and the Caribbean are this vast source of potential transformative solutions for climate. But what I really want to drill down on today is building on what you've heard already, is that the region is not only full of potential, but it's already kinetic. My name is Benjamin Zehr. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Reciprocal. We're a venture platform for climate and nature tech in Latin America and the Caribbean, and our purpose is to support and elevate climate startups at the early stages coming out of the region as a whole. And we see ourselves as the connective tissue, kind of connecting the dots between the Americas and beyond so that we can facilitate the growth of the innovation that's already happening in the ecosystem. We've been really lucky to work with some tremendous partners in realizing this purpose, and one of them is Breakthrough Energy Discovery. And thanks to their support, we are about to launch a comprehensive market analysis of Latin America and the Caribbean, really covering the breadth of the climate and nature opportunity in the region. It's a set of guidelines, kind of a strategic to-do list for funds or philanthropists. Kind of highlights all the white spaces that you might find if you're a founder, and for ecosystem builders, it's also a roadmap for you. I'll be very quick because I'm compressing 150 pages of report into about 7 minutes. But our method, yes, it comes from our own data analysis, but it also comes from all of you. There are 110 more, actually, contributors to this report, some of whom are sitting in the front row, some of whom are out in the audience. It really took a combined effort of an entire ecosystem to pull this together. And we structured our findings across 4 sectors. There's regenerative land, water, and oceans, sustainable industry and infrastructure, mobility and energy systems, and market infrastructure for nature and climate. All of these have been touched on already, and we dive into the unique edge that Latin America has in each of them in the report. The bottom line is, despite the headwinds, we didn't find paralysis in Latin America, we found progress, and we believe that the region has kind of an advantage hiding in plain sight. So despite these constraints, the climate crisis has arrived, and LATAM is already innovating around it. In our analysis, we looked at about 800 startups, which met our criteria, and they've collectively raised over $4 billion since the early 2000s. And most of that, as many will be very pleased to see, is concentrated in Brazil. So about 47% of the startups we looked at come from Brazil, and it leads across every subsector. But no reason to rest on our laurels there. There are 5 countries that really dominate the funding and the startups here, which are listed up there. What we found through all of the analysis and the interviews was that there are 4 pillars that define the Latin American edge, whether it's technology, innovation, the availability of inexpensive young talent around the region, the rich natural capital, or the maturity of these markets. It's clear that the ingredients are all here. But we didn't stop at kind of a feel-good, good vibes report. We really wanted to go deep, so we stuck our necks out there and we've put out 25 concrete investment theses for the region across our 4 sectors that I just described. It really demonstrates the scope and the breadth of the opportunity here, whether it's sustainable aquaculture or financial platforms for nature or leaky pipes or cows. It's all here. And it's really it paints a picture of a region that's already innovating around all of these spaces. We also map startups in each of these sectors, and we spotlight some of them. Again, some of you are present in the audience. So it really is meant to be very specific and a starting point for anyone who's looking to invest in the region. So let's look at one in particular. I know that we love to talk about lands and nature when we talk about Brazil, but let's do something different and look instead at low-carbon mobility. And this is where fundamentals in the region come together. You have a highly urbanized region, you have a very clean grid, and it's a leading producer of biofuels, Brazil in particular. Those come together to push forward these emerging sectors, right? There's potential here for mass EV adoption, which you're already seeing with all the purchases of Chinese-made electric vehicles across the continent, and leveraging strengths that already exist in the ecosystem to create these integrated electromobility ecosystems, right? And we'll touch on one of those startups shortly. Given that transportation accounts for 38 to 40% of energy-related emissions, and a lot of that is from road transport, this is a wedge. This is a key leverage point for the region to make a change, where over 90% of the vehicles on the road are still internal combustion. So, going even further, let's look just at one startup where they're bringing together that urban density, the manufacturing base, and a fintech platform to launch a product that solves a commercial pain point. So these are commercial drivers that are looking for, they have predictable schedules and they cannot afford downtime. So Vamo, operating Brazil, has a subscription service whereby the cost of the EV is lowered, effectively solving that bottleneck in EV adoption for these commercial drivers. So very quickly, it brings together a technology and a concrete market need, and it's not based on wishful thinking, it's based on fundamentals. We have a number of startups like these mapped across all of our subsectors. So it sounds like everything's going great based on what you just heard, but I wish that were true. You've heard today that funding is a problem in the region, and it is true. Less than 1% of global venture capital for climate goes to Latin America as a region. And a lot of that actually comes from the global north. Surprising to some, but most of the deals, the funders are actually headquartered outside of the region, so the region's investing less in itself than the rest of the world is. Something off about that. So, we know this is an important year for LATAM, for Brazil in particular, but it's not just about COP. I mean, delegates will come, they'll meet, they'll leave, commitments may or may not be made, but that doesn't necessarily change the fundamental story here. We think that given the level of innovation that's already happening in the region with 0.35% of global funding flows, imagine what a coordinated, well-resourced ecosystem can do. So investors who might be in the crowd, move early, fill the gaps. LATAM is an undervalued opportunity today, but it won't be for very long. To any founders who might be here, think about your home region as a starting point, or your home country as a starting point, but really look beyond that. Ask if your solution can be applied to India, to Southeast Asia. Likely, it probably can be. To all the scientists who might be here, yes, LATAM produces tons of great research, Brazil in particular, but there's still a gap translating that to market. Look at ecosystems elsewhere that have done this well and see, test what might work. And policy, it's an understatement to say it's a fraught time for policy, but one great underleveraged asset of the region is the regional interdependence, economic interdependence, and a shared culture that perhaps doesn't exist in other emerging regions like Southeast Asia or Africa. So it's an asset to leverage. So join us. Let's please take a look at this report, analyze it, debate the theses that we have there, start a conversation, and amplify the narrative. This isn't a potential, it's not a potential story, it's a story of kinetic energy. There's already activity happening, we just need to fund it. And if you're a believer in the region as much as Reciprocal is, talk to us. We're launching this report on Monday, and I'll have a QR code at the end so you can scan and be the first to receive it when it's released. But I want to end with a quote from one of our interviewees. And it's particularly relevant for us because we started Reciprocal in Silicon Valley, the kind of spiritual home of technical innovation in the modern era. But what we found in Latin America is that the entrepreneurs in the region, they're close to the problem, right? You see it on a day-to-day basis, and you can navigate the different worlds, not just your local context, but the global context. There's so much talent that has moved around and understands how to speak the language of different different worlds, whether you're a funder or a founder. So it's not a Silicon Valley disconnected from the problem. No shade to Silicon Valley. Lots of great stuff happens there, but being close to the problem gives Latin America an edge, and that's one that I think we should leverage. So join us. Let's turn the edge into action. Talk to you after. Thank you all.